The scent of burning hair had followed Karra for the first 10 miles, though whether it came from memory or still clung to her scorched scalp, she could not say. Her feet ached in boots, never meant for such distance, the leather cracking at the seams as she trudged along the dusty road that wound through the borderlands between orc territory and human farmland. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly on her bare head, and she felt the absence of her braids like a phantom limb. They had been waist-length, woven with the history of her clan, threaded with beads that marked every milestone of her 22 years. Her mother had burned them herself, holding Karra's face toward the fire so she could watch 2 decades of tradition curl into ash. "You are no daughter of mine," her mother had said, voice flat and cold as winter's stone. "You are no sister to your blood. You are nothing to this clan." The elders had stood in a circle, faces carved from granite, as her father cut the burning braids from her head with his hunting knife. The smell had been atrocious. Karra had not cried, though her eyes had watered from the smoke. She had kept her gaze fixed on the middle distance, on the gap between her uncle's shoulder and her cousin's head, where she could see the edge of the forest that bordered their settlement. She had known this would happen. She had known from the first moment she smiled at Adam Whitmore across the boundary stream, where he fished on the human side, and she gathered medicinal herbs on the orc side. She had known from the first conversation, the first laugh, the first time her heart had done that strange flutter when he looked at her with those warm brown eyes. She had known, and she had chosen him anyway. The road stretched ahead, empty and pale under the sun. 40 miles, she had calculated. 40 miles from the settlement to his farm. She had walked 12 so far, judging by the position of the sun, and the landmarks she recognized from the maps Adam had once drawn for her in the dirt by the stream. 28 more to go. Her water skin hung light at her hip. She would need to find a stream soon. The land here was different from the dense forests of her homeland. It opened up into rolling hills dotted with sparse trees, and in the distance, she could see the beginnings of cultivated fields. Human territory. She had never ventured this far in before. Their meetings had always been at the border, in the neutral spaces where the forest met the grassland. Karra's throat burned with thirst, but she pushed forward. Her legs were strong from a lifetime of hunting and hauling, her body built for endurance. Orcs were taller than humans, broader in the shoulder, thicker in the limbs. She stood nearly 6.5 feet, and she had always taken pride in her strength. Now she drew on every bit of it. She would reach him. She would walk until her feet bled if she had to. A cart appeared on the road ahead, pulled by a donkey, driven by an elderly human man. Karra's first instinct was to step off the road, to hide in the tall grass until he passed. Humans and orcs did not mix. Humans feared orcs, hated them, saw them as monsters who had warred against their kingdoms for generations. A lone orc woman on a human road would be seen as a threat, or worse, as prey. But there was nowhere to hide, and she was too tired to run. She kept walking, head high despite her shame, despite the raw patches on her scalp where the fire had touched skin. The man saw her from a distance. She watched him stiffen, watched his hand move to something beside him on the cart seat. A weapon, probably, but he did not turn the cart around. He kept coming, and so did she, and eventually they were close enough to see each other's faces clearly. He was ancient, his face a map of wrinkles, his hair white as lamb's wool. His eyes were sharp, though, and they took in every detail of her green skin, her small tusks, her pointed ears, her scorched head, her weary posture. "You are far from home, girl," he said. His voice was surprisingly gentle. Karra stopped walking. Her hand rested on the knife at her belt, not threateningly, just ready. "I am," she said, "alone, Yes, he studied her for a long moment. You are hurt. She touched her head reflexively, then dropped her hand. I am fine. You do not look fine. He tilted his head. You look like someone who has been cast out. Karra's jaw tightened. She said nothing. The old man sighed. He reached behind him into the cart and pulled out a water skin, larger and fuller than her own. He held it out. You will die of thirst before you reach wherever you are going. She stared at the water skin. It could be poisoned, it could be a trick, but her mouth was so dry and she had so far yet to go. Why would you help me? She asked. Why would I not? He waggled the skin. Take it, girl. I am too old to hold my arm out forever. Slowly, Karra stepped forward. She took the water skin from him, their fingers not quite touching. She uncapped it and sniffed, just water, clean and cold. She drank deeply, feeling the liquid soothe her burning throat. Thank you, she said, handing it back. He did not take it. Keep it. I have another. He paused. Where are you headed? Karra hesitated. But what did it matter now? There is a farm, 20-some miles east, a man named Adam Whitmore. The old man's eyebrows rose. I know Adam Whitmore, good man, keeps to himself mostly, but he is fair and honest. His eyes narrowed. Why would an orc girl be looking for Adam Whitmore? That is my business. I suppose it is. He gathered his reins. The road forks about 5 miles ahead. Take the right path. It will add a mile to your journey, but the left path goes through Millerton, and they will not be kind to you there. Karra nodded slowly. Thank you. Thank me by staying alive, girl. He clicked his tongue at his donkey, and the cart began to move again. He called back over his shoulder, and when you see Adam, tell him old Cyrus says hello. Then he was gone, rattling down the road behind her, and Karra was alone again. She looped the water skin over her shoulder alongside her own and kept walking. The sun moved across the sky. Her shadow stretched long beside her. She passed the fork in the road and took the right path as Cyrus had instructed. The landscape grew more pastoral, more tamed. She saw sheep in the distance, white dots against green hills. She saw a farmhouse, smoke rising from its chimney. When twilight came, she left the road and made camp in a small copse of trees. She had no bedroll, no fire-starting materials beyond what she could gather. She was a decent tracker, a decent hunter, but she had left in such haste that she had brought almost nothing with her. Just the clothes on her back, her knife, her nearly empty water skin, and the silver acorn Adam had carved for her, which hung on a cord around her neck, hidden beneath her tunic. She gathered fallen branches and dry grass. She used her knife and a piece of flint from her pouch to strike sparks. It took a dozen tries, but eventually a small flame caught. She fed it carefully until she had a modest fire. She had no food. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. She had gone hungry before. She would survive. As the fire crackled, Karra pulled the silver acorn from beneath her tunic and held it up to catch the light. Adam had given it to her 3 months ago, after they had been meeting for nearly a year. He had pressed it into her palm and closed her fingers around it. So you know I am thinking of you, he had said, his ears turning red the way they did when he was embarrassed. Even when we are apart. She had traced the fine details of the carving, the tiny cap, the delicate lines he had etched to suggest the texture of a real acorn. You made this. I am not much of a woodcarver, but I tried. It is beautiful. He had smiled then, that soft smile that made her heart feel too large for her chest. Not as beautiful as you. She had laughed and shoved his shoulder, and he had caught her hand and held it, and they had stood there by the stream with their fingers intertwined. 2 people from 2 worlds who should have been enemies but were somehow, impossibly, something else entirely. Karra clutched the acorn now and felt the sting of tears. She had not cried when her clan cast her out, but here, alone in the dark, she let herself feel the grief of it. She had lost everything. Her family, her home, her identity. The braids had been more than hair. They had been proof of who she was, where she came from, what she belonged to. Now she belonged nowhere, except maybe possibly with him, if he would have her. That was the terrifying part, the possibility that had haunted her every step of this journey. They had never spoken of a future together. How could they? It was impossible. Orcs and humans did not build lives together. They did not marry, did not have children, did not grow old side by side. Their meetings had been stolen moments, secret and sweet, but without substance, without reality. But Karra had nothing left to lose now and everything to hope for. She lay down beside her fire, using her pack as a pillow, and stared up at the stars through the canopy of leaves. Tomorrow she would walk another 20 miles. Tomorrow she would see him again. Tomorrow she would find out if love was enough. She woke at dawn, stiff and sore, and continued her journey. The second day was harder than the first. Her feet had blistered, and every step sent jolts of pain up her legs. Her empty stomach cramped, but she walked. Around midday, she came upon a stream and refilled her water skins. She drank until her belly sloshed, trying to fill the emptiness with liquid. She saw fish in the stream, silver flashes in the clear water, but she had no time to catch them. She had to keep moving. The road climbed a long hill, and from the top, Karra could see the valley spread out below. There were farms dotting the landscape, fields of wheat and barley turning gold in the summer sun. She knew from Adam's descriptions that his farm was on the far eastern edge of the valley, backed up against a forest. "I like the trees," he had told her once. "They remind me that the world is bigger than what I can plow." She had smiled at that. "You are a strange human, Adam Whitmore. And you are a strange orc, Karra of the Green River clan." "Karra of no clan," she whispered now, tasting the words. They were bitter and wrong, but they were true. She descended into the valley. The sun was past its peak, beginning its slow slide toward evening. She walked faster, ignoring the pain, ignoring the exhaustion. She was close now. So close. A group of human children playing in a field spotted her and ran away screaming. She did not blame them. She kept walking. A woman hanging laundry saw her and quickly gathered her sheets, retreating into her house and slamming the door. Karra heard the bolt slide home. She was a monster to them. She understood that. She had always understood that, but Adam had never looked at her that way. From the very first day, when she had growled at him for fishing too close to her herb-gathering spot, he had looked at her with curiosity instead of fear, with interest instead of hatred. "I did not know orcs gathered herbs," he had said. "I did not know humans could fish without catching anything," she had replied, eyeing his empty basket. He had laughed, surprised and genuine. "Fair point. I am terrible at this." "Then why do you do it?" "Because it is peaceful. Because I like the sound of the water." He had shrugged. "Because my farm is lonely sometimes." Something in his voice had resonated with her. She knew loneliness. Even surrounded by her clan, she had always felt slightly apart, slightly different, too curious about the world beyond their borders, too willing to question the old grudges and older hatreds. "I could show you how to fish properly," she had offered, surprising herself. His face had lit up. "You would do that, and that had been the beginning." Now, as the sun touched the horizon, Karra saw it. A modest farmhouse with a barn beside it, fields stretching out in neat rows, and beyond it all, a dark line of forest. Smoke rose from the chimney. There was a figure in the field, too distant to make out clearly, but moving with a familiar gait. Her heart seized. Him. It was him. She left the road and cut across the open land, her exhaustion forgotten. Her feet carried her faster and faster still, until she was nearly running despite the pain. The figure in the field straightened, turned, and she saw him drop the tool he was holding. Adam Whitmore stood motionless for a heartbeat, as if he could not believe what he was seeing. Then he was running too, sprinting across the furrows toward her, and they met in the middle of the field as the sun painted the sky orange and gold. "Karra," he gasped, and his hands reached for her, stopping just short of touching, as if afraid she would disappear. How she could not find words. She stared at him, at his tousled brown hair and sun-browned skin, at his brown eyes wide with shock and joy and concern. He was exactly as she remembered. He was real. "Your hair," he whispered, and his fingers finally touched her, gently tracing the ruined edges where her braids had been. "Karra, what happened?" "They found out," she said, and her voice cracked. "About us. About you. They burned my braids and cast me out." Horror and grief flashed across his face. "No, no, I never wanted, I know." She grabbed his hand, pressed it to her cheek. "I know, but I do not regret it, Adam. I do not regret you." "You walked here," he said, taking in her torn boots, her dusty clothes, her exhausted face. "From your settlement, that is 40 miles. Yes, you walked 40 miles. I did not know where else to go." The confession came out small, vulnerable. "I have nowhere else." His arms came around her then, pulling her into an embrace so tight she could barely breathe. He was shorter than her by half a foot, slighter in build, but in that moment he felt like the most solid thing in the world. "You always have a place here," he said fiercely. "Always. For as long as you want it. For forever if you will stay." She buried her face in his shoulder and finally let herself cry, not the silent tears of last night, but great heaving sobs that shook her entire body. She cried for her lost family, for her lost braids, for the life she had left behind. And she cried with relief, because she had not been sure, not truly, that he would want her like this. Broken and cast out and with nothing to offer. Adam held her through it all, his hand stroking her back, his voice murmuring soft reassurances she could not quite make out over her own weeping. When she finally quieted, he pulled back enough to look at her. "You must be starving and exhausted. Come inside, please." She nodded, not trusting her voice. He kept one arm around her waist as he led her toward the farmhouse, as if afraid she might collapse. She might have, if not for the determination that had carried her this far. The house was small but well kept, with a thatched roof and sturdy wooden walls. Inside, it was a single large room with a kitchen area, a table and chairs, and a bed in one corner. Simple, but clean and warm. Adam guided her to a chair and she sank into it gratefully. He moved around the kitchen with practiced efficiency, stoking the fire in the hearth, setting a pot to boil, slicing bread and cheese and laying them before her. "Eat," he said. "I am making soup, but it will take time. Eat this now." Karra tore into the bread and cheese with unladylike urgency, too hungry to care about manners. Adam watched her with such open tenderness that it made her chest ache. "I have to tell you," he said quietly. "I am so angry at them, your clan, for hurting you like this." She swallowed. "They believe they were protecting themselves, protecting the old ways. That does not make it right." "No," she agreed. "It does not." He knelt beside her chair, taking her hand. "Karra, I need you to understand something. I want you here. Not because I pity you, not because I feel obligated. I want you here because he took a breath. Because I love you. I have loved you for months now, maybe longer. I was just too much of a coward to say it." The words hung in the air between them, precious and fragile. "I love you too," she whispered. "That is why I came. That is why I chose this." He raised her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles, his eyes never leaving hers. "Then we will figure this out together. Whatever happens, however hard it gets, we will face it together." She nodded, blinking back fresh tears. "Together." The soup finished cooking and Adam served her a generous bowl. She ate 3 helpings, then nearly fell asleep at the table. He caught her as she swayed, and she was dimly aware of him guiding her to his bed, removing her ruined boots, covering her with a blanket. "Rest," he murmured. "I will be right here." She wanted to argue, to say she should not take his bed, but exhaustion dragged her under before she could form the words. Karra slept for 14 hours straight. When she finally woke, the sun was high and Adam was gone. Panic seized her for a moment before she saw the note on the table, written in his careful script. "Working in the field. Come find me when you wake. There is food in the larder." She sat up slowly, every muscle in her body screaming in protest. Her feet were wrapped in clean bandages. Adam must have tended to her blisters while she slept. The thought made her feel warm and cared for in a way she had never quite experienced before. She found bread and jam in the larder, ate standing up, then limped to the door. The farm looked different in full daylight. The fields were larger than she had realized, rows of wheat swaying in the breeze. The barn was old but sturdy, and she could hear chickens clucking inside. It was a modest operation, but clearly well tended. Adam took pride in his work. She found him repairing a fence at the edge of the wheat field. He saw her approaching, and his face broke into a smile that made her forget her aching feet. "You are awake. How do you feel?" "Like I walked 40 miles, she said dryly. He laughed. "Fair enough, you should be resting." "I have rested enough." She looked around at the farm. "What needs to be done? You are in no condition to work." "Adam, I cannot just sit inside while you labor. Let me help." He studied her, then nodded slowly. "All right, but nothing too strenuous. And you tell me immediately if you need to stop." They worked together through the afternoon, falling into an easy rhythm. Karra was used to physical labor, and even injured and exhausted, she was still stronger than most humans. She helped him finish the fence repair. Then they fed the chickens and collected eggs. It felt good to be useful, to have a purpose beyond simply surviving. As evening approached, Adam made dinner while Karra sat at the table, watching him move around his kitchen. There was something intimate about it, something domestic that made her heart feel full and terrified all at once. "What will people say," she asked suddenly, "when they learn you are harboring an orc?" Adam paused in his chopping. "Some will not like it, some may stop doing business with me." "You could lose everything." "I could." He set down the knife and turned to face her. "But I would lose more if I turned you away. I would lose you. And I would lose myself, the part of me that knows loving you is right, regardless of what anyone else thinks." "You are very brave," she said softly. "No. I am just a man who has been alone too long and who finally found someone worth fighting for." He smiled. "Besides, I am stubborn. Once I set my mind to something, I do not let go easily. I noticed that when you kept coming back to the stream even though you never caught any fish." He laughed. "I caught fish eventually, thanks to you. You did." She remembered those afternoons by the stream, the way he had been so patient with her instruction, the way his fingers had brushed hers when she showed him how to tie a proper knot. "I think you just liked having an excuse to talk to me." "You are absolutely right." He resumed chopping vegetables. "I would have pretended to be terrible at anything if it meant spending time with you." Over the following days, they settled into a routine. Karra's feet healed slowly and her strength returned. She worked alongside Adam, learning the rhythms of farm life. She was a quick study, and her orc strength made some tasks much easier. She could lift bales of hay that would have required 2 human men, could work for hours without tiring the way Adam did. But there were challenges too. The first time Adam needed to go into the nearby village for supplies, Karra had wanted to come with him. "I do not think that is wise," he had said gently. "Not yet. People need time to adjust to the idea of you being here." "You mean I need to hide?" "I mean I need to lay groundwork. Talk to people. Help them see you as a person, not a threat." It galled her, but she understood. So she stayed behind, and when Adam returned, he told her about the conversations he had had. Some people had been hostile, others had been curious. A few, like old Cyrus, had been surprisingly accepting. "Cyrus says to tell you that you have more courage than sense," Adam reported. "But he respects courage, even when it is foolish." Karra smiled at that. As the weeks passed, a few of the braver souls from the village ventured out to meet her. Cyrus came first, bringing a basket of apples and looking her over with those sharp eyes. "You are still alive, I see," he said. "I am difficult to kill," Karra replied. He had cackled at that. "I believe it. You taking good care of Adam here. I am trying. Good. He deserves someone who will look after him." Cyrus had patted Adam's shoulder. "And you deserve someone who walked 40 miles to be with you, boy. Do not waste it." After Cyrus, others came. A few farmers who needed help with heavy labor and were willing to pay in goods if not coin. A woman whose son had been saved from a bear by an orc warrior years ago, and who had never forgotten the kindness. A young boy who was fascinated by her tusks and asked if she could lift a whole cow. "I have never tried," Karra told him seriously, "but perhaps one day we will find out." Not everyone was accepting. Some people shouted slurs from the road. Once, someone threw a rock through Adam's window in the middle of the night. He had found Karra in the morning, cleaning up the glass with tears of anger in her eyes. "I am bringing trouble to you," she said. "Maybe I should go." "Where would you go?" he asked quietly. "I do not know. Somewhere far away, somewhere I would not ruin your life." He took the dustpan from her hands and set it aside, then cupped her face between his palms. "Karra, listen to me. You are not ruining my life. You are making it worth living. Before you, I went through the motions. I worked my farm, I survived, but I was not truly alive. Now every morning I wake up and you are here, and everything has color and meaning." His thumbs brushed her cheeks. "I would rather have a hard life with you than an easy life without you." "Do you understand?" She nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "Besides," he added with a slight grin, "you are far too useful around the farm. Who else is going to help me build that new barn?" She huffed a laugh despite herself. "You are using me for free labor." "Absolutely. It is very calculating of me." They were building a new barn, actually. The old one was barely standing, and with Karra's help, Adam could finally tackle the project he had been putting off for years. They worked on it together in the late afternoons, after the day's other chores were done. Adam drew up plans, and Karra shaped timber with a strength and precision that amazed him. "Where did you learn to build?" he asked one day, watching her notch a beam with expert cuts. "My father was a builder before he became a hunter. He taught me when I was young." A shadow crossed her face. "He wanted sons. He got 3 daughters instead, so he taught us what he would have taught sons. Did you like it?" "I loved it. I loved making things, seeing them come together from nothing." She ran her hand along the smooth wood. "My sisters preferred other things, weaving and cooking and herb lore, but I was always happiest with a tool in my hand and a project before me." "Your father must have been proud of you." Her jaw tightened. "Once, maybe. Not anymore." Adam came to stand beside her, his hand resting on the small of her back. "He is a fool then." "You are extraordinary." She leaned into his touch, drawing comfort from his presence. These small moments of physical affection had become more frequent as the weeks passed. A touch on the shoulder, a hand held across the table, an embrace that lasted longer than strictly necessary. They had not progressed beyond that, both of them dancing around the deeper intimacy they both wanted but were afraid to claim. Karra was not sure what held her back. Fear, perhaps. Fear that if they crossed that final line, if they made their relationship undeniably real in every sense, something would come along to destroy it. As long as they existed in this liminal space, This almost but not quite. She could pretend they were safe. But she was not sure how much longer she could pretend. One evening in late summer, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Adam took her hand. "Karra, I have been thinking." "That sounds dangerous," she teased. He smiled, but his expression was serious. "I want you to know that you have a home here for as long as you want it, not just as my friend or my helper, but as my partner, in every way." Her heart began to race. "Adam, let me finish." He took a breath. "I know our situation is complicated. I know there will be people who never accept us. But I do not care about them. I care about you. And I care about building a life together if that is what you want too." She stared at him, at the earnest hope in his eyes. "What are you saying?" "I am saying I want to marry you if you will have me." The world seemed to stop. Marry. The word hung between them, enormous and impossible and perfect. "Humans and orcs do not marry," she whispered. "Why not?" "Because it is not done. Because our peoples are enemies. Because of fear and old hatreds and prejudices that do not have to define us." He squeezed her hand. "Karra, we have already broken every rule just by loving each other. Why stop now? There is no priest who would perform such a ceremony. Then we will make our own ceremony. We will speak our own vows. We do not need anyone's permission to commit our lives to each other." She felt tears prickling her eyes. "You would do that? You would bind yourself to me, knowing that it will make your life harder." "My life is already harder with you in it," he said with a slight grin. "You snore like a bear and you eat twice as much as I do." She shoved his shoulder, laughing wetly. "I do not snore. You absolutely do, but I love you anyway." His expression softened. "Marry me, Karra, not because it is traditional or expected, but because I want to wake up beside you every day for the rest of my life. Because I want to build this farm with you, grow old with you, face whatever comes with you at my side." "Yes," she said, the word tumbling out before she could overthink it. "Yes, I will marry you." His face split into the widest smile she had ever seen. He stood, pulling her up with him, and kissed her. It was not their first kiss, but it felt different somehow. It felt like a promise. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Adam rested his forehead against hers. "We should do it soon," he murmured, "before I lose my nerve." "You will not lose your nerve." "You are right, I will not." He pulled back to look at her. "How about tomorrow, at sunset, just you and me?" "Tomorrow," she agreed. They spent the next day in a flurry of preparation. Karra picked wildflowers from the meadow and wove them into a crown. Adam cleaned the house and made a special dinner. As evening approached, they both dressed in their best clothes, which were not very fine but were clean and mended. They walked together to the edge of the forest behind the farm, to a small clearing where a stream ran over smooth stones. It reminded Karra of the place where they had first met, and she suspected Adam had chosen it for that reason. The sun was just touching the horizon, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. Adam took both of Karra's hands in his and looked up at her, his eyes shining with emotion. "I am not good with fancy words," he began, "but I want you to know that loving you is the best thing I have ever done. You are strong and brave and kind, and you make me want to be better. I promise to stand by you through whatever comes. I promise to protect you and cherish you and laugh with you. I promise to build a life with you that is full of joy, even when the world tries to tear us down." He took a shaky breath. "I give you my heart, my home, and my future, for as long as we both live." Karra's throat was tight with emotion. "I am not good with fancy words either," she said, her voice rough. "But I promise to be your partner in all things, to work beside you, to fight for you, to love you with everything I have. You gave me a home when I had none. You gave me hope when I thought I had lost it. You saw me, truly saw me, when everyone else saw only a monster." A tear slipped down her cheek. I give you my strength, my loyalty, and my love, for as long as we both live. There were no rings, no witnesses, no priest to bless them. But in that moment, as the sun set and the first stars appeared, Karra felt the bond between them solidify into something unbreakable. They sealed their vows with a kiss, long and sweet and full of promise. When they returned to the house, everything was different and yet nothing had changed. They were still themselves, still facing the same challenges. But now they faced them as husband and wife. That night, they consummated their marriage with a tenderness and passion that left them both breathless. Karra had been nervous, unsure of how their physical differences would work, but Adam was patient and attentive, and they learned each other's bodies with reverent care. Afterward, they lay tangled together in Adam's narrow bed, skin against skin, hearts still racing. "We are going to need a bigger bed," Adam murmured, making her laugh. "We are going to need a lot of things. We will figure it out." He pressed a kiss to her shoulder. Together. The word had become their anchor. Together they could face anything. As autumn arrived, they settled into their new reality as a married couple. The crops came in well, and with Karra's help, Adam was able to harvest more than he had in years. They finished the new barn just as the first frost touched the ground. Karra took pride in the sturdy structure they had built with their own hands, a symbol of what they could create together. More people from the village began to accept their presence. Not everyone, but enough that Adam could still sell his grain and buy what they needed. Some people even came to respect Karra for her strength and her work ethic. She helped several neighbors with tasks that required heavy lifting, and word spread that the orc woman on Adam Whitmore's farm was honest and reliable. There were still incidents of prejudice. Slurs shouted from passing carts, whispers at the market. Once, a group of young men came to the farm drunk and angry, demanding that Adam send the monster away. Karra had stepped out of the house, all 6.5 feet of her, and calmly asked if they wanted to take it up with her directly. They had scattered like frightened rabbits. Adam had been furious that she had put herself at risk, but also secretly proud. "You terrified them," he had said. "Good. Maybe they will think twice before harassing us again." But the harassment, when it came again, was more serious. It was a cold morning in late autumn when Karra went to the barn to tend the animals and found one of their goats dead, its throat slit. On the barn wall, someone had painted a crude message: "Monsters do not belong here." She stood staring at the blood and the paint, feeling a deep weariness settle over her. She had known this would not be easy. She had accepted that loving Adam would mean facing hatred and violence. But seeing it manifest in such a cruel way, seeing an innocent animal killed to send a message, made her sick with anger and grief. Adam found her there and his face went pale. "No," he breathed. "No, who would? Someone who wants me gone," Karra said flatly. He pulled her into his arms and she let him, though she felt numb. "We will report this to the village council," he said. "This is not just prejudice, this is property destruction, this is violence. And what will they do? They do not care about an orc. They care about the law. They care about keeping the peace." He pulled back to look at her. "I will not let them get away with this, Karra. I will not let anyone hurt you or what we have built." They did report it, and the village council made noises about investigating, but nothing came of it. No one was arrested. No one even apologized. The message was clear: they were on their own. Adam bought a large dog from a farmer whose bitch had just had puppies. The dog, a mastiff mix named Bear, took immediately to Karra. She suspected the dog liked her because she was big enough to seem like another dog rather than a human. Bear became their guardian, barking ferociously at any stranger who approached the farm. Winter came, bringing snow and freezing temperatures. The farm slowed down, and Adam and Karra spent long evenings by the fire, talking and reading and simply being together. Karra taught Adam some of the old orc songs she remembered from her childhood, and he taught her a few human ballads. Their voices blended together, not always harmoniously, but always full of joy. One evening, as they lay in their new, larger bed, Adam traced the scars on Karra's scalp where her braids had been burned away. "Does it still hurt?" he asked softly. "No, not physically." She paused. "Sometimes I miss them. The braids, they were part of who I was." "You could grow them again. Different braids for your new life." She considered that. "It would take years, and they would not have the beads, the history. Then we will make new history, new beads for new milestones." He kissed her temple. "The day we met, the day we married, the day we finished the barn." The idea took root in her mind, and over the following months, as her hair grew back, she began to braid it again. Not in the traditional orc style, but in a new pattern she invented herself. Adam helped her weave in beads he carved from wood, each one marking a moment in their shared life. Spring returned, and with it came planting season. Karra was stronger than ever, having spent the winter building up her endurance. She could plow a field faster than Adam ever could, and together they expanded their crops significantly. One warm afternoon in late spring, as they were taking a break from planting, Karra realized her monthly bleeding had not come. She said nothing at first, not wanting to raise hopes that might be dashed. But when another month passed and then another, she could no longer deny what her body was telling her. She was pregnant. The realization terrified her. She had never heard of an orc and human having a child together. She did not know if it was even possible, if the baby would survive, if she would survive. But beneath the fear was a fierce joy, a sense of rightness that she could not ignore. She told Adam on a quiet evening when they were sitting on the porch watching fireflies dance in the meadow. "I am with child," she said simply. He turned to stare at her, his eyes wide. Are you certain as I can be?" For a long moment he just stared. Then his face broke into the widest, most joyful smile she had ever seen, and he whooped loud enough to startle Bear, who had been sleeping at their feet. "We are going to have a baby," he said, pulling her into his arms. "Karra, we are going to be parents," she laughed, his joy infectious. "We are, though I have no idea what to expect. I do not know if anyone has ever done this before. Then we will be the first." He pulled back to look at her, his hands on her shoulders. "And whatever happens, whatever challenges we face, we will face them together." There it was again. Their anchor. Their promise. The pregnancy was not easy. Karra's body changed in ways that frightened and amazed her. She grew larger than any human woman would, her orc frame supporting a baby that seemed to be a blend of both their heritages. There were complications. Pain that sent Adam riding through the night to fetch the village midwife, who came reluctantly and left quickly, muttering about unnatural unions. But old Cyrus came too, bringing his own grandmother's remedies and a calm, steady presence that soothed Karra's fears. "Life finds a way," he told her. "It always does. You are strong, girl, stronger than anyone I have ever met. You will get through this." And she did. In the early days of winter, as snow fell softly outside, Karra gave birth to a daughter. The labor was long and agonizing, but when it was over, Adam placed the tiny, squalling baby in her arms, and Karra felt her heart expand to hold a new and overwhelming love. The baby had green-tinged skin, softer than Karra's deep green but clearly not human. She had tiny, almost imperceptible tusks and pointed ears. Her eyes, when they opened, were Adam's warm brown. "She is perfect," Adam whispered, tears streaming down his face. "Karra, she is absolutely perfect." "What should we name her?" Karra asked, stroking the baby's downy hair. Adam thought for a moment. "Hope," he said. because that is what she represents, hope for a future where orcs and humans can live together in peace. Karra smiled. Hope, yes, that is perfect. Raising Hope was a challenge unlike any they had faced before. The baby was healthy and strong, but she grew faster than a human child, her orc heritage evident in her rapid development. By 6 months, she was crawling with a determination that required constant vigilance. By a year, she was walking and getting into everything. The village's reaction to Hope was mixed. Some people were fascinated, seeing her as proof that the divide between their peoples could be bridged. Others were horrified, calling her an abomination. Adam and Karra shielded her as much as they could from the hatred, creating a cocoon of love and safety on their farm. Old Cyrus adored Hope, bringing her carved toys and spending hours entertaining her. "She is going to change the world, this one," he would say, bouncing her on his knee. "Just you wait and see." As Hope grew into a toddler, Karra began to notice other changes in the village. A few more mixed couples appeared, emboldened by Adam and Karra's example. An orc man and a human woman who had been meeting in secret for years came forward and declared their love openly. They faced the same prejudices, the same challenges, but they were not alone anymore. "You started something," Adam told Karra one evening as they watched Hope play with Bear in the yard. "You and me, we showed people that it was possible." "I just wanted to be with you," Karra replied. "I did not set out to start a revolution. The best revolutions start that way, with people just trying to love each other." 5 years after Karra had walked 40 miles to Adam's farm, their family had grown to include not just Hope, but also a son whom they named River, after Karra's lost clan. River had more human features than his sister, but his strength was unmistakably orc. The farm had grown too, expanded with the help of several orc workers who had been cast out by their own clans and found refuge with Adam and Karra. They had built more than just a farm. They had built a community, a place where the old divisions did not matter, where people were judged by their character rather than their species. It was not perfect. There were still incidents, still people who hated them for what they represented. But there were also more people who supported them, who saw them as proof that change was possible. On a warm summer evening, Karra stood on the porch of their expanded farmhouse, watching her children play in the meadow. Her braids, now long again and woven with beads of wood and silver, hung over her shoulder. She touched the silver acorn that still hung around her neck, worn smooth by years of handling. Adam came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "About how far we have come," she said. "About that girl who walked 40 miles not knowing if she would be welcomed. I would always have welcomed you. I know that now, but I did not know it then." She turned in his arms to face him. "I was so afraid, Adam, afraid that I would be alone forever, afraid that loving you was a mistake that would destroy us both. And now I know that loving you was the best decision I ever made." She kissed him softly. "You gave me everything. A home, a family, a future. You gave me hope when I had none. You gave me the same," he said, his eyes shining, "and more. You gave me courage. You showed me that love is stronger than fear, stronger than hate." They stood together on the porch, watching their children play, as the sun set over the farm they had built with their own hands. The farm that had started with one woman walking 40 miles for love, and had become a symbol of hope for all who came after. Karra thought of her mother sometimes, wondered if she ever regretted casting her daughter out. She thought of her sisters, her father, her old clan. She hoped they had found peace with their choices, as she had found peace with hers, because in the end, love had been worth every sacrifice. Every painful step of that 40-mile journey, every moment of fear and uncertainty. It had all led her here, to this moment, to this man, to this family. She had walked 40 miles, and she would walk 40 more if she had to, but she did not have to anymore. She was home. In the distance, Hope called out for her parents to come see something she had found, and River tugged on Bear's ear, making the dog huff in gentle protest. Adam squeezed Karra's hand, and they walked together down the porch steps, toward their children, toward their future. The world was still not perfect. There was still hatred, still division, still people who believed that orcs and humans could never live together in peace. But on this small farm on the edge of the frontier, two people had proved that love could bridge any divide. And that was enough. For now, for always, it was enough. As evening deepened into night and the family went inside for dinner, laughter echoing through the house, Karra felt a contentment so complete it brought tears to her eyes. She had lost everything once: her clan, her braids, her identity. But she had gained so much more. She had gained a love worth walking 40 miles for. She had gained a partner who saw her not as a monster but as a woman. She had gained children who represented a new future, a bridge between two worlds, and most importantly, she had gained herself. Not the Karra who had lived her life according to her clan's rules, but the Karra who had chosen her own path, who had walked away from everything she knew for the chance at something better. That Karra was stronger, braver, and more complete than she had ever been before. Years continued to pass, and the farm prospered. Adam's hair turned gray at the temples, and Karra's face gained the weathered look of someone who had lived a full life. Their children grew tall and strong, Hope with her mother's determination and her father's kindness, River with his father's patience and his mother's strength. More mixed families appeared in the valley, drawn by the success of Adam and Karra's farm. The village that had once been hostile slowly, grudgingly, began to change. It was not a dramatic transformation but a gradual shift, like a river slowly carving a new path through stone. One day, nearly a decade after Karra had first walked those 40 miles, a young orc woman appeared on the road to the farm. She was thin and exhausted, her braids recently burned, raw patches still visible on her scalp. She clutched a small bag and looked at the farmhouse with desperate hope in her eyes. Karra saw her from the field and knew immediately what had happened. She walked to meet the girl, remembering her own journey, her own fear. "You are cast out?" she asked gently. The girl nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "My clan found out about him, about the human I love. They burned my braids and told me to leave. I heard there was an orc woman here who had survived the same thing. I thought maybe," her voice broke, "I thought maybe you could help me." Karra smiled, warm and understanding. "What is your name, Rena?" "Well, Rena, you have come to the right place." She put her arm around the girl's shoulders. "Come inside. You must be starving. We will feed you, let you rest, and then we will figure out how to get you to your human. He lives 2 towns over. I do not know if I can make it that far. You can and you will. And if you need help, we will help you." Karra led her toward the house. "Do you know what the hardest part is, Rena? The walking is nothing compared to the not knowing. Not knowing if he will welcome you, if the love is strong enough to weather the storm." "How did you know?" Rena asked. "How did you know it would be worth it?" Karra thought about that as they walked. She thought about Adam's arms around her that first night, about his vow to stand by her. She thought about their wedding in the clearing, about Hope's first cry, about 1,000 small moments that had built the life they now shared. "I did not know," she admitted. "I had to choose to believe it would be, and then I had to walk 40 miles to find out." She looked back at the farm, at Adam emerging from the barn with River on his shoulders, at Hope feeding the chickens with the same concentration Karra herself had once used, at Bear lying in the sun, old now but still faithful. But I can tell you this, Rena. If your love is true, if he is a good man who sees you for who you are, then it will be worth every step, every sacrifice, every moment of fear. She squeezed the girl's shoulders. And you will not walk alone. We will be here, all of us who have made this journey. We will help you, and someday you will help someone else. That is how we build a better world, 140-mile walk at a time. Rena managed a watery smile. Thank you. Thank me when you are married with children and wondering how you ever survived their chaos, Karra said with a laugh. Come now. Let me introduce you to my family. As they approached the house, Adam looked up and saw them. His eyes met Karra's across the yard, and she saw understanding dawn in his expression. He had known this day would come, that their home would become a refuge for others like Karra. He smiled and nodded, welcoming, because that was who they were now. Not just a family, but a sanctuary. Not just a farm, but a beacon of hope for anyone brave enough to walk away from hatred and toward love. Karra guided Rena inside, into the warmth and safety of the home she had built with Adam. As she closed the door behind them, she caught one last glimpse of the road that stretched away from the farm. The road she had walked all those years ago, exhausted and afraid and desperately in love. She did not regret a single step, and she never would.